Some of you might have been wondering about the name that I use for this channel, Malcolm C. Dragon. Perhaps you have questioned whether this is my real name or simply an on-screen nom de plume. I can assure you, however, that it really is the name I was given at birth. Our family name is thought to originate from the Old French, in which the word signified a snake or monster. It was originally a nickname or occupational name for someone who carried the king's standard in battle, and there are 12th century records of a member of the Dragon family being a royal standard bearer here in the UK. There may be a link to the legendary King Arthur, who, according to Geoffrey of Monmouth, led the defence of Britain against Saxon invaders in the early 6th century, and eventually established an empire consisting of Britain, Ireland, Gaul, Iceland, and Norway. A dragon-shaped comet inspired Arthur's father Uther to take the surname Pendragon, and this was indeed a fitting family name for Arthur himself. Pendragon or Pendraig means head dragon or chief dragon, signifying a leader of high status. In medieval Latin documents, the name appeared as Draco or Draconis, from the Greek Drakon. Another Germanic version of the name Drago or Drago was an abbreviation of Dragvold, meaning to wield power or rule. In Polish and Ukrainian, it signified a dragoon, mounted soldier. These two words were also interchangeable in French, Spanish, and Portuguese. There are a number of other spellings, which include those currently shown on screen. Dragon is also considered to be a related family. This surname is a corruption of the French d'Aragon, meaning from the Kingdom of Aragon, now an autonomous region of Spain. In England, the name first appeared in Kent during Saxon times, when the dragons were lords of the manor. Their influence declined from shortly after the Battle of Hastings, but the name survived for the next 300 years, and records show that in the 13th century, dragons once again held estates in that county. Tracing the surname's origins can also take one in a very different direction, to Romania and Transylvania, home of the Dracula legend. Vlad the Impaler, Vlad Cepes in Romanian, so called because of his practice of impaling the heads of his enemies on stakes, was a prince who ruled over Wallachia in Romania around 500 years ago. He reigned for a total of around 7 years during 1448, 1456 to 1462, and 1476. He was the inspiration for Bram Stoker's Dracula. Although there was never any serious suggestion that the real Count was actually a vampire, as depicted in the fictional accounts, he was a very harsh and cruel leader, understandable perhaps during those difficult times, though sometimes taken to excess, in order to maintain law and order and justice. Even today, most Romanians still regard him as a heroic figure. He was much celebrated for his crusade against the Ottoman Empire. Vlad Cepes, Vlad III, was born in 1431 in Székesfehérvár, Transylvania in Hungary. His father, Vlad II, was initiated into the Order of the Dragon that year in Nuremberg, Germany. 5 years later, his young son was also admitted to the order. Founded in 1408 to defend the cross and fight the enemies of Christianity, the order was a society of knights in the tradition of St. George, which flourished in Germany and Italy for the first half of the 15th century. Members were known as Draconists and were in effect a private army dedicated to defeating the Ottoman Empire and serving the best interests of the Christian rulers of that era. In particular, Sigismund, King of Hungary, who ruled from 1397 to 1437, and was the Holy Roman Emperor from 1433 to 1437. Though it grew rapidly and became widely recognized internationally during Sigismund's time, the order declined in its influence after his death in 1437. But back to Vlad II. After his investiture into the Order of the Dragon in 1431, he became known as Dracul, the Dragon, and his son Vlad III then took the surname Dracula, or son of Dracul. Dracula died in battle in 1476 and left behind him a mystery as to where his mortal remains were finally lodged. The island monastery of Snagov near Bucharest remains the most likely candidate, but recent excavations failed to locate his grave. What is certain, however, is that he did produce sons and heirs, and the family bloodline continued. Although this may be a slightly less salubrious link than the admittedly nebulous Arthurian one, it is nonetheless an intriguing one, and again hints at possible royal connections as well as more esoteric influences. Although it's quite an unusual surname, members of the Dragon clan can now be found across the globe, with particularly significant numbers in the UK and the USA. Regardless of the actual origins of the surname, it's one of which we dragons are especially proud, and we're always pleased to link up with newly discovered family members around the world. I hope that you've found this introduction to the Dragon family name interesting, and that you will click on the like button as well as subscribing to my channel if you haven't yet done this. Please share the video with as many people as possible and feel free to comment below. Thank you.